share with you my slide. Okay, so um, I was assigned to share with you this topic about understanding digital citizenship. Okay, so as I said, as I introduced myself before, I'm Elengita MK. I'm with the Educational Technology Department of the University of the Philippines College of Education. Okay, so let's start. For today, I'm going to share with you 3 topics under this understanding digital citizenship that I put a subtitle amid the pandemic. Okay, so perhaps later I can stop my video so you can just focus on what I am saying, okay? So I hope it's okay with you. Okay, but first, let me share with you the 3 topics I'm going to share this morning. First is what is digital citizenship for us to be able to understand it fully well, and then how should we behave as digital citizens, and how do we live above the pandemic as digital citizens. Okay, so now let's start with the first topic, which is what is digital citizenship? Digital citizenship, as you can see in the screen, is the continuously developing norms of appropriate, responsible, and empowered technology use. Let me emphasize that. Continuously developing norms of appropriate, responsible, and empowered technology use. Okay? So now, in other words, it is how we live our lives in a world where everything and everyone is connected by the internet and its related technologies. And digital citizenship, may I emphasize, is more than just a teaching tool. It is a way to prepare us, the technology users or the students, for a society full of technology. As a good digital citizen, we are challenged to be a responsible member of the online community every day with mindfulness, respect for the power that the internet wields, online behavior, as well as critical thinking skills, which are needed to navigate this 21st century environment. Okay, so now, may I have the permission to, okay, so now let's go to the next slide. Mike Ribble, one of the most popular authors of digital citizenship, further discussed this digital citizenship concept, and he used the S3 framework, three S's: safety, savvy, and social. Safety focuses more on protecting the digital sense, okay. These 3 S's, or safety, savvy, social concepts, are actually intersecting, interacting, and influencing each other. But in my discussion today, I'll be providing the 9 elements and classified it into each one under safety, 3 elements under safety, 3 elements under savvy, and 3 elements under social. Okay, so now let me go to safety. The first S in the S3 framework of Mike Ribble. Safety includes digital rights and responsibility, digital security, and digital health and welfare, okay? So let's discuss first the digital rights and responsibility. These digital rights and responsibility are those freedoms given to us or extended to everyone in the digital world. Here, users must be informed of their basic digital rights to privacy, freedom of speech, and others. This area of digital citizenship is for us to understand that we are provided opportunities such as access to internet and use of online products. We need to be diligent in helping others as well, such as informing them of potential problems of using the technology on the internet. And we educators must help our students understand that protecting others both online and in the real world are essential skills to have. So what are the issues under this digital rights and responsibility? following acceptable policies like the use of images or files or documents or codes in the internet? Are we following acceptable use policies? And then are we citing sources, requesting permissions every time we use a material? Or if we want, or there are some cases that technologies are used to cheat on tests and assignments. And under here, the digital rights and responsibility, reporting cyber bullies. Sorry for the, okay, for that. And then cyber bullies, threats, and other inappropriate use. So as digital citizen, you must exercise this right. We must exercise this responsibility. If we have freedom, we have rights, we also have responsibilities. Okay, we have responsibilities with others. So the next element in security, in safety is digital security and privacy. This refers to the electronic precautions to guarantee safety. Here, digital citizens need to know how to protect their information from outside sources that may cause harm. Okay, this area of digital citizenship is for us to understand that when we are provided opportunities such as access to internet, we need to be diligent in helping others. Okay, security. Okay, this one is this one refers to the viruses, the worms, the bots that we usually pass from one system to another, just like an illness, just like this COVID virus. Okay, so when using devices, whether you're in school or at home, we must understand and be aware of the attacks and how to prevent them. Are important skills for today and into the future. These are the important skills for today. You must be able to understand and aware how to protect our files. Okay, so if you can see in the image that I included, we must install antivirus. Okay, so and also we must protect our files from malwares and hackers and and other I call it cyber predators. So we must really protect. So this is the next element that we must remember for us to be good and responsible digital citizen. Okay, to protect our information from outside forces. Okay, the next element under safety is digital health and welfare. So this refers to the psychological and physical well-being in a digital world. Okay, so today the technology provides, particularly in this time of crisis, technology provides many opportunities and enjoyment. But how do we segment choose with the needs of ourselves and others is key to healthy. In digital health and welfare, it is important that we monitor the number of hours that we spend on the screen or in the computer. Are we using the right chair or the ergonomics, or are we always conscious of how we use the equipment? Are you familiar with what they call the RSS, or the repetitive stress syndromes? Because when you're using the mouse, I mean, you keep on using the same finger whenever you use the mouse, or when you're using your mobile phones, you're always using your thumb or your index finger to access some site. So that's what they call the repetitive stress syndrome, because you keep on using that part of your body, repeating it over and over again. So, and also the psychological issues, such as internet addiction. So how many hours have you spent your day? How many hours did you spend using the computer yesterday? Was it 8 hours? Was it 2 hours? What was it till you fall asleep? Normally, it is healthy or helpful to be in front of your computer for 2 to 3 hours. But for 6 hours, there were studies or there are literatures that I read that when you use the computer for like 6 hours, it will already cause mental health problems. And it usually causes depression. So think about it. How many, how many hours did I spend in front of the computer? How many hours did I, you know, I spend reading books. So it's really how you balance your life. I mean, how you balance, because we cannot do away anymore with the technology. So it's important now to put, we put on a schedule or something on how if we how or we should always monitor how this technology is influencing our day-to-day life, particularly our health. Okay, so I have just presented to you the three elements under safety, digital health and welfare, digital responsibilities and rights and responsibilities, and digital security and privacy. So these are the three elements under safety. Now let's go to the second framework, the second element or component of the framework presented under the digital citizenship, savvy. When you hear the word savvy, it's like, so, being, feeling it's so fulfilling, it's so, exciting, or it's so interesting, or it's so like, colorful or exciting, something like that. But under this savvy framework, there are three elements that were placed under this: digital communication and collaboration, digital fluency, and digital commerce. So let's discuss each one of them, okay? The growth and changing nature of technology teaches everyone that we can never stop learning. And with the opportunity that these tools provide, why would anyone take this opportunity? So technology has opened the possibilities of how to learn new skills and understand and maximize the potential of these tools. Okay, so under this savvy component, we have the three elements: digital communication, digital fluency, and digital commerce, all about, as you can see, if you an overarching concept for these three elements are, we have to learning and connecting, okay? So let's go first, the digital communication and collaboration. So digital communication and collaboration is actually the exchange of information using the electronic technologies or the technologies that we have right now. So with so many communication options, we need to learn how to make appropriate decisions. Okay, who among us have no mobile phones or smartphones at that? But all users need to define, but given all these technologies that we have that can easily share our thoughts, it's also important that when we share our thoughts, how do others understand the message? But if so that's why it's important that when you use our emails, how do you compose your email? Is it polite, or you say, oh, it depends on the audience or the receiver? Yes, it's important. You must know who is receiving our email. So, and then it's also important that when there's a forward feature of the email, we must also be conscious about it, cautious actually, because sometimes we forward a message with all the other messages that you share privately with another person. So it's how digital communication and collaboration focuses on highlights on the importance of the appropriate use of the messaging software or messaging options that we have. So also we have the cell phone etiquette. Who among you are using the shortcut or languages like YOU, you instead of YOU, or wait, YAIT instead of WA. So usually when I receive messages like that, I feel like, what is she trying to tell, he or she was trying to tell me? Okay, was she just joking or, not being serious? But we as educators, I believe that even though it will take us a little long to, to finish a message using the right language or the right spelling, it's important that we text properly or text the message um, um, appropriately, particularly if we're messaging a very important person or a person who is in authority. Okay, now the next element under savvy is what we call digital fluency. It is the process of understanding technology and its use. By the way, what is the difference between digital fluency and digital literacy? We have been hearing a lot about digital literacy, isn't it? Digital literacy on the 21st century. But why I'm now sharing with you digital fluency? What is the difference between digital fluency and digital literacy? Which comes first, digital literacy or digital fluency? Okay, if I have to define what digital literacy is, it is an understanding of how to use the technological tools, the digital tools that we have. And while that's digital literacy. But digital fluency is the ability to create something new with those tools that we have on our hands. Okay, it is actually, literacy is actually opposed to become fluent. So let me discuss further. Like for example, a digitally fluent instructor is one who continually focus on the pedagogical use of the technology. Okay, so digital literacy is learning the digital basics, the browsers, how to use the browsers, how to use the search engines, how to download files, and um, customize or make these materials appropriate for our daily lesson. But when you become fluent, digitally fluent, uh, when you are able to contextualize the use of this specific piece of technology within your own teaching and learning practice. Okay, so I hope you understand it. Digital fluency, digital literacy is opposed to becoming digital fluent. Like for example, you have these tools. You have prepared your lesson plans uh, using this technology. But for some, some trick of faith, twist of faith, something happened. So what will you do then? That's when you exercise being digitally fluent, because though you have prepared a particular lesson using this specific technology, and then being able to to rearrange or to restructure your lesson um, using the same the digital tools, you were able to contextualize your lesson with the same tool that you have. Then that's become digital. Then you become there a digitally fluent teacher. Okay, so why are we using all these technologies? We've been asking, what are the benefits? What are the drawbacks? Okay, so you can ask yourself, when you become digital fluent, you anticipate where and how your students can find some struggles with. Okay, how you're hoping that this technology will, how will this technology help your students? When you ask these questions, like for example, why am I using this technology? What are the benefits of this technology? What are the drawbacks if I use this technology? Okay? And then how will this technology help my students? then if you ask these questions, these kinds of questions to you, you are on your way to achieving digital fluency. So it says here that the better educated or digitally fluent, better educated or digitally fluent users are more likely to make good decisions online because they can easily contextualize or troubleshoot or solve some problems despite given the some situation. So then you become digitally fluent. Okay. Okay. So under this digital fluency, you are assessing the trustworthiness and security of online vendors, recognizing phishing attacks, exploring and developing learning modes, and of course, developing lesson plans for remote learning. I believe that with the new normal that we are all in when the schools open, we should have this kind of fluency when it comes to preparing lessons for the new normal or for the new learning environment for both the schools and the teachers and the students particularly. Okay, so now let's go to the third component of savvy. So we have discussed digital communication and collaboration now, and then I have finished discussing digital fluency. Now we are going to discuss how we can be good digital citizens using under this component. So digital commerce is the electronic buying and selling of goods and focuses on the tools and safeguards in place to assist us buyers, sellers as well, even the bankers or the using money in the digital space. Right now, during the COVID crisis, we have been paying or transacting using the online platforms, right? But there are also some risk in doing so. Sometimes you may type in the wrong account numbers and it will go to, a wrong destination. And instead of you paying your insurance or paying paying some debts or some housing loans or something, instead of it going to the right destination, it goes somewhere else. And that's when the hackers and the cyber predators come in. Okay, so there are issues about the use of digital commerce. Of course, when we shop and we book our planes and we book our and when we pay our tuition, sometimes we use this platform. So here, as digital citizens, when we make our purchases online, we must also understand how to be effective consumers, which means that we must be cautious on the transactions that we do. Every time we type in the accounts or the reference numbers, review it once or twice. And then you may even ask somebody to read it for you so that you will be confident that you type in the right accounts. Okay, so I hope you now become I hope you got the concepts about under the savvy, the digital communication, digital fluency, and digital commerce, which is the last component under the savvy savvy framework. Okay, now let's go to the last part of the framework. It is social. So safety, savvy, and then social. What are the elements under social? We have the digital access, digital etiquette, and digital law. What does this say about us? Okay, let's go to digital access. Digital access is where all people have the fair access to the technology, no matter who they are. But there are some issues though, because some technologies are not designed for children with or people with disabilities or people with special needs. So this digital access advocates for equal rights and access. And when you advocate for equal rights and success, this is where digital citizenship starts. Okay. So working toward equal digital rights and supporting electronic access is the starting point of digital citizenship. Digital exclusion makes it difficult to grow as a society. Increasingly, helping to provide and expand access to technology should be the goal of all digital citizens. If you will notice, these all elements have a common denominator, which is reaching out or um, helping others or expanding access to technology so we can help others. So users need to keep in mind that there are some that may have limited access. So other resources may need to be provided. So for us to become productive citizens, we need to be committed to make sure that no one is denied digital access. So under digital access, there are issues. Are you familiar with digital divide? Digital divide is the discrepancy on the technological access of among socioeconomic groups. Like for example, which schools can afford state-of-the-art technologies? But when you go to the remote rural villages, or where schools are challenged with poor internet connection and poor and lack of, and lack of, they have limited resources as well. So you can see that digital divide is really very prominent when comparing the rich and the poor schools, okay? Because the technological access is, it's really a problem, okay? And also, under digital access, it's important also that we reach out to people with disabilities and also the minority groups, okay? So that's digital access, okay? And then the next element is digital etiquette, which is refers to the electronic standards or conduct or procedures. Okay, technology users often see this area as one of the most pressing problems when dealing with digital citizenship. Why? Because here we can sometimes we reflect our our attitude or our who we are in the physical world in the digital world. Sometimes we fake our presence in the digital world, but sometimes but most often than not, we reflect who we are in the who we are when we are in the physical world. We reflect it to the digital world. Okay, so we recognize inappropriate behavior when we see it, right? But before we have to learn to use the technology, we must learn we must have this digital etiquette or the appropriate conduct in the online environment. Many people feel uncomfortable talking to others about their digital etiquette, but often rules and regulations are created or the technology is simply banned to stop inappropriate use. It is not enough to create rules and policy. We must teach everyone to become responsible digital citizens in this new society. Because even we want to be good citizens of this digital environment, and yet others are not doing it, then there will really be some problem about it, okay? So we must use technology in ways that minimize the negative effects of the use of technology on others. And when we use the technology, it must be contextually appropriate, okay? And we must, most importantly, we must respect others online. Do not engage in cyberbullying, flaming, inflammatory language, and so on and so forth. So we need also to teach everyone about appropriate conduct online. Okay, so now let's go to the third component under social. Digital law. Digital law is the electronic responsibility for action and deeds, okay? So digital law deals with the ethics of technology within a society. Unethical use manifests itself in form of theft or crime. Ethical use manifests itself in the form of abiding by the laws of society. Users need to understand that it's a crime to steal um, or damage a person's digital work identity or property. It includes the hacking of information, downloading illegal music, plagiarizing, creating destructive worms or destructive viruses, or creating Trojan horses that will destroy the files of other person, sending spam, or sending or stealing anyone's identity or property. Like for example, if you want to destroy a person's reputation, some people create new accounts in Facebook. So, so they can malign that person at the guy, by using another person's personality. It's really very sad that we can find accounts like that. There are many fake accounts, and they are being used to destroy somebody else's reputation. So that's why we have this cybercrime law. So it's I hope that they really give a more tip to the implementation of the digital law, because there are so many people already victimized by this violation of or commission of the crime. Okay, so it's important also that as digital citizens, we are cautious about how we share files, and then we should know where okay, so it's also important here that we don't share so many private information or private videos or private files in the internet, because it's usually where the commission of crimes in the cyber world starts. Okay, so now let's go to the third part of my sharing with you today. How, okay, wait, let me, okay. Oh, what's wrong? Yeah, okay. So now let's go to the last part of my lecture, which is how to live about the pandemic as digital citizens, which I think is very relevant. But first, let me introduce you to some concepts about misinformation. Okay, so how do we live? This is my outline. Fight all misinformation. Create your own identity. I hope you will be interested with this one. Let me, where the PPE, very relevant or very related to the present situation we're in. So I'll be discussing, I think this will be the last part of my presentation. We have to fight all misinformation for us to live above the pandemic as digital citizens, create our own identity, and wear the PPE. I created, an acronym for PPE, which is related to being a good, responsible, empowered digital citizens. Okay. So, but let me first introduce you to a concept called information disorder. In this Venn diagram, you will see that and the first circle has false, and the red circle, refers to the harmful information. Under the false information, we have misinformation, which is the false connection and the misleading content. And then we have the harmful information, which has the malinformation, which under it is the leaks, harassment, or hate speech. And intersecting is what we call the disinformation, wherein I think false news come in, okay? False news comes in. But let us define first, what is the difference between misinformation and disinformation? Misinformation is the false information shared without meaning any harm. So that's misinformation. You are sharing a false information which you are not aware. It's not, it's not really accurate, but you're not aware of it. You just shared it. Like, When you saw something in Facebook, you shared it just without checking whether it will cause harm or not. You just share it. Remember, there are many cases like that. Pag may nakita tayong gusto natin i-share and we found it funny and found it interesting, we share it even without checking first whether it's true or false, whether it's the correct or thing to do or accurate information are being provided in that. Okay, what then is this information? This information is the false information shared to cause harm. If this information is shared without you meaning to cause harm, this information is false information shared with the intent of causing harm. Intentionally false or inaccurate information that is spread deliberately. It is an act of deception and false statements to convince someone of untruth. Okay? So, this information, however, should not be confused with misinformation because as I defined or as I differentiated the two, misinformation is shared without, you don't mean any harm, but yet you shared it. Okay, now what is malinformation? Malinformation is the genuine information shared to cause harm. So this means that these are genuine information. So these two has false information. This one has genuine information, and it is was shared to cause harm. But here we are focusing now on the disinformation because this is where false news are included. False news is included and is causing a lot of harm, especially this time of COVID crisis. Okay, so now let's go to the next. So how do we know if how can we check whether we are sharing malinformation or malinformation, misinformation, or disinformation? Okay, the first thing that you have to do, this one I got from Harvard, and I put in some thoughts or inputs about it as well. But how do we get the right information? How do we spot fake news? First is vet the publisher's credibility. You have some questions to ask. Would the publishing site meet academic citation standards? Okay? Just because a site is popular among your friends, it doesn't mean that its content is correct. And then, what is the domain name? What is the URL? Be wary of unusual top-level domain names. Like, for example, com.co or com.co. Okay. And then, it may appear credible, but if you look, like for example, you thought you search for a site, and then you look for abcnews.com.co, but you will notice that there's something wrong. There's something different about it. It is a illegitimate site, though sometimes they appear to be similar, but let's be cautious. Let's always check whether we access the right site or not by looking at the URL, checking on the URL or the internet address that we are checking our files, and then you also practice reading the about us. About us, usually when you go to a site, you will always see about us, read about it. And sometimes you will find out that it's so, obvious that they are legitimate sites, okay? Okay, so here on the About Us, you will get more insights about the publisher, the mission statement, the philosophy, and it will also confirm that you have not stumbled upon a site that is satirical or just being created, to make fun of somebody. Like for example, we thought that it's very genuine, and then we found out it's a Adobo Chronicles. I don't know if you have encountered that kind of site. Okay, and then you also ask who is the author? Has he or she published? And then you can look at the Google Scholar. Is the author or the owner of this cite a scholar, or scholarly has the scholarly standing of this author. Okay, be suspicious if the byline of the author is a celebrity writing for a little known site, or the contact information. Remember this: if the author's contact information is a Gmail address, then be doubtful about it, because address is a sugar. But it's important that you also always check for these things. Okay, and then the next thing that you do when you want to spot a fake news or false information is for you to uh, pay attention to quality and timeliness. The questions that you have to ask: can you is there is the story current or recycled? Or it's also important that you look at the spelling. Do you notice spelling errors? If it's not, proofread, or it's not language edited, or, have lots of grammatical inaccuracies, then be doubtful about that site. Okay? Are there lots of capital letters, all caps, or like dramatic punctuations, like, the punctuation marks, the questions, and then the hashtag marks and all things? If you see all these things, wrong spellings, all caps, and dramatic punctuations, abort your reading mission because it's illegitimate. Reputable sources have high proofreading and grammatical standards. So remember that. If you want to find out whether you are reading a credible site, then you can easily see it through the language that they use, grammatical standards. Okay. So also, make sure also that when you read a particular news or something, look at the dates. You've been reading about, this particular issue, and then you found out that it was published a year ago. So make sure also that what you're reading is the most recent, is the most current, because that will help us have decide and live this live in this digital world, be good digital citizens, live with this peacefully, harmoniously, if we know which facts or information should we believe. Okay. Okay, and then the next one is check the sources and citations. If you read something, you ask this your question: how did you find the article? If you see that the content, that it is connected to a social media feed or was promoted on a website known for clickbait, no, proceed with caution. Even if the information was shared by a friend, be sure to follow the steps below to vet the publisher's credibility. So what are these, what do we need to do? Okay, next. First is who is or is not quoted and what do they say? Okay, if you notice a glaring lack of quotes or contributing sources, particularly on complex issue, then something is wrong. So if you find so many quotes, so many ideas, but they have no citations, then you should be cautious about it. You should doubt about how the information is shared, how whether the information they share lacks research or lacks fact-based information. Or if you Google it, is there information available on other sites? If not, then it's likely that the site is still out, or whether the information is valid. So library databases are great resources for confirming the credibility of information. Okay, so the next question is, can you perform reverse searches for social sources and images? So like, for example, by checking the cited sources, you can confirm that the information has been accurately applied and not altered to meet the author's point of view. Like, for example, you are searching for an image, and then you click the site where the image is. That's where you see whether the one you're the whether the information being presented in another site is not altered or is not changed by this some doubtful sites that you are in. So you have to like for example in Photoshop, right? In Photoshop image, you can change the face of a person using Photoshop. You can always check whether this image is legitimate or not. There are ways of doing this. So you can confirm it by some software that you can use. And then the next thing that you can do is ask the pros or the professionals. Be your own detective. And these are the sites wherein you can check whether the information is correct, accurate, current, or proper or well researched, or it has um, fact-based, or whether it is fact-based. So you can use all this, the factcheck.org, International Fact-Checking Network, and of course our very own Verifiles. You can use that to check whether the information is legitimate or not. Okay, so now, I know you are, I am I don't know if I'm, uh, giving you an information overload. So let us pause for a while and let's reflect. Okay, let's reflect. When you want to communicate to a friend whom you were not with for a long time, or you want to connect to a relative, a former teacher, or a person you met in a conference or in a social gathering, what is the first thing or the usual thing that you do? Isn't it that you search for him or her through the available social media platform like Twitter, like Facebook? So what does this make us then? This makes each one of us searchable. So I want you to reflect on this question. Had you known your life to be searchable, would you have lived it differently? So I'll give you some 10 seconds to reflect on this question. Had you known your life to be searchable, would you have lived it differently? Okay, I hope you kind of, thought about it and reflected on it. Because each one of us now is searchable. Because we have already created our own digital identity. Okay, our digital identity or tattoo is the permanent collection of data about us that is available online. So that when you post a picture or post a blog or a status or a tweet, we are adding to that digital identity. I'm always using this analogy to uh, uh, to highlight this concept. We are all familiar with footprints in the sand, right? When you walk on the sand, you will be leaving some footprints. But when the wave comes in, those footprints will go away, right? It will be erased. But for our digital identity or digital footprints, it's like, stepping on a wet cement. Because when we step on a wet cement, when it gets dry, the footprint is there. It can no longer be removed. It can no longer be erased unless you put on another, tap it with a cement again. So our digital identity is like stepping on a wet cement. It's like a tattoo that cannot be erased. Because the moment you post a picture, you you shared a tweet or shared a status, we are adding to our digital identity. Okay, so how we behave as digital citizens create for us our own to the next, our own digital identity. Okay, so moving on, let me give you again another set of questions. Have you asked yourselves these questions? What does your digital identity say about you? Who is reading the information that you share? Who is storing the information that you share? But sometimes when we realize, oh, I posted a tweet or a comment that I do not like, then you deleted it. But we didn't know whether somebody has already have a screenshot of what you posted. I know of lots of people doing that. They are always monitoring the post of that particular person so that the moment that person posts something, they will screenshot the post and use it against him, something like that. That's a real story. So I can say it's true. It's a legitimate. That's a legitimate story. So it's very important that whenever we post something, we ask ourselves, who is going to store this information? And then ask what are they doing with it? And then if they have posted all the things that they have a screenshot of all the things that you posted and shared it in the internet or online, what do you think its impact on your future? And you can ask this question: does it say to my employers, to your current employers, especially now that many people are losing jobs, and then they have to streamline the manpower to save money for the viability of the company, so that when you lost your job, what will your future employers feel or think or say about you? Don't you know that many human resources department, just in many companies, the moment that somebody applied in their company, the first thing that they do is to check on the Facebook account of that person to find out how this person is behaving in the in the digital environment. Because as I said earlier, how you live your life, how you project yourself or how you behave in the online world or digital world mirrors how you live and if you're a teacher, what will it say to your students? How students are usually impressionistic. So the moment they know something about the teacher, it's in their mind. It's the back of their mind. It's always there. It will never go away. And sometimes it's really difficult, to rebuild your reputation. So it's very important that whenever we post something in the internet, you must always ask this question. So now, do you think that you have made a good impression in the digital world, or you have created a positive digital identity? Okay, so now let me share this. So I got it from virtuallibrary.info about the digital footprint. How then should we manage our digital footprint? So if you have many unused media accounts, delete it, because sometimes they can use that media account. You don't know that they're using that media account that you created many years ago, or and then you forgot all about it, and then you didn't know that somebody's using it, and then using your account or and then you don't know that they're already destroying your reputation. And then assume everyone is watching, okay? Everyone is watching. In the digital world, everyone is watching. Also protect your reputation. So it depends on how what the post that your comments that you share online. Guard your privacy. Don't share details about don't share personal details. Your bank account or even the email address. You have to be asked first whether it's okay for them to share your email or phone numbers. Let them ask you first, especially now that we have a data privacy law. Okay, remember, nothing is private online. You thought that you shared many years ago and then you deleted it. You didn't know that's still stored in that computer in somewhere, you know. So those private things that you do online, sooner or later would come out in the open. And then of course, apply the golden rule. I hope you're familiar with the golden rule. You do unto others what you would like others to unto you. So this is how we behave in the, in the digital world. Okay? Because we have already shared our lives in this world, in this world. I mean, in this digital world or digital learning environment. So it's important now that to create your own digital identity before somebody else does it for you. Okay? So, and how do you do it? It depends on how the comments, the posts, the files, the messages or the pictures that you share. That's kind of build a reputation, a positive digital identity for you. Okay? Create it now because somebody else will do it for you. Okay? And then, so now, this is my, I created a a site in Google site. This is so easy to do. It's just like, like a drag and drop thing. So if you can see here, this is about me. And then some of my reflections, and then some portfolio, and then some presentations that I did, some photos which I want that other teachers can use, and then my resume and my contact number. See, because I want to, I want to control how the online community perceive me, because this is how I want to be perceived by the digital environment, the network world. So it's important that you create your own digital identity now. And then the right time is now. Okay, especially now that everybody's in the, in the internet, accessing, using the online resources and everything, so they can discover so many things, and then they can even discover about you. And then what will they discover about you? The question is, will they like what they see? Will they like what they learn about? Okay. So now I want to share this one because it's 10:02, and then wear the PPE, because this I want to, and this is my last topic to discuss. Wear the PPE. PPE stands for, of course, in the medical world, stands for personal protective equipment. But for the digital, being a digital citizen, we must also wear a different kind of PPE. So I created these three: presence, protection, and education, which stands for PPE. Okay. So now, what is P for the first P in the PPE? Okay, presence. Presence. Um, uh, your presence in the digital world. Our professional and personal presence in the digital world mirrors who we are in the physical world. Nothing is private online, as I said before. The netizens are more often than not very cruel. I think they're the most cruel group of individuals because they can destroy you. Okay? Because of their anonymity or being anonymous, empowers them to bash, to criticize, destroy one's reputation. That's why I always tell my students, if you are not ready to be bashed, to be criticized, or to be destroyed emotionally, mentally, spiritually, be careful with what you share online. That's why there's always this thing called think before you click, right? Because if you're not ready to be bashed, and there are many cases of suicides because of, cyberbullying, because of the bashers, you really have to be tough. If you really want to share, how much of yourself have you shared already in the network world? Okay, how have you experienced to be bashed, to be criticized, and how did you feel about it? I know so many individuals got depressed, and then they have to seek psychiatric or psychological help, to get over all the hurtful statements or hurtful messages that the bashers or the cruel netizens have, thrown to him or her. Okay, so I also remember my son. He was playing with another Filipino player, and then uh, and then and then she told me that, mom, we reported to the game administrator because you kept on saying ano, something like that. That's a Filipino word, right? Ano. And then they realized that there are some players who belong to another Southeast Asian country where the word ano is a bad word for them. So that's why your presence, it's important. I mean, the way, how you, every time you go online, you must be cautious about your professional and personal presence. So you must understand the professionalism of academics. Like, for example, if you want to publish, make sure that you go by the, professional ethics and standards of publishing. Okay, make informed decisions also on how to interact with others. Like, for example, like the example that I share with you about my son playing the a virtual game. Then suddenly they were reported to the admin because they were saying some words which are kind of offensive to the other players to the other virtual players. Okay, and then know about etiquette. What words do we say, okay? And then understand the cultural taboos and recognize cultural disconnects when they happen. So these are the things that we have to remember to make our presence really come out respectful to other citizens of the digital world, okay? And then the next P is, and then the next P is protection. Create a secure password. Your email and online banking should not have the same the PIN or password. Because the moment they access one account and then you've been using the same password for all your other accounts, they can easily get into into all your dealings or all, they can do the transactions for you. There are many cases of that already. And it's really very disheartening because I know of a friend whose money were divested from her bank account. All her savings went to the hackers who were able to access her personal information. Where, that's very sad because, at this time we really have to keep our money and, be so that we will be secure because we don't know what will happen in the future. So important that we change our password also very often. And don't use the same password for all your other accounts for security, okay? And then have a password system like LastPass to manage your password or secure. There are many software that you can store your password, or if you want, you can keep. So if you can't remember, because sometimes me too, that's my problem. I always forget my password. So I have to put it in one secure app where I can store all my password that only me knows how to access. Okay, so that's protection. Another way by which you can protect yourself is be mindful of your health. Health is most important now, especially this time of COVID crisis. All of us during this COVID-19 are glued on our screens, sitting most of the times or eating most of the time. So physical and psychological health must be given utmost attention. After this pandemic, we'll be living in the new normal. How are we preparing for this new normal? We need to be physically and psychologically equipped. And it is important that we we must remember that this COVID crisis may stay for a long good time. And how we prepare for this new environment will determine how will we survive in the next coming days or coming months. That it has become surreal that the usual things that we do, we cannot do anymore. So it's important that we prepare psychologically and physically. And then protect your private information, just like what I said earlier. You have don't give details like address, email, and phone number. That's why when somebody would like me to give him or her a phone number of a colleague, I will tell that person to, can you just please wait? I will ask first that person if it's all right if I can share to you his or her contact information, because you know that could be private, or she doesn't want, that colleague may not want to be disturbed or bothered. So you really have to be to always ask permission when you want to give private information particularly. Okay, the last part is of the PPE. So what's presence, protection, and E in the PPE is education. As I said, the digital tattoo is almost impossible to erase. If we use the analogy of a wet cement, it's like a digital tattoo that can never be deleted. It's there. It can always be accessed. It can always be found. These electrical, engineers, or of technological engineers, which I can call them. They're so amazing. They can, they can make things possible in the technological world, because they know the language, they know the program, they know the logarithm. And then if they want to find something about you, they can easily search it in the deepest part, in the most bottom, on the pit where they can get information about it. And so whatever you post, it's there already. Okay, so that's why we're being advised to use the incognito, or have you heard about the DuckDuckGo? That's another browser, DuckDuckGo. Duck means, duck. Um, the two-legged fowl, the duck. So it's called DuckDuckGo. You can also use that because it does not save any information about you, or even the site that you have access. DuckDuckGo. Or sometimes others use the incognito, but Google Chrome still store the information about you. So it's better that you use the other browsers like the DuckDuckGo, which does not store any information, or the sites that you have access. Okay, so how do we do it? So here under the education, you decide how you want your voice heard and how you want to be perceived online, because we cannot delete or erase or remove anymore what we posted. Be mindful of what you share online. Okay, think before you click. It is true. Is it true? Is it useful? Is it helpful? You have to ask first. Perhaps you have to ask first yourself, not only once, but twice or thrice before posting. Or you just have to, what I usually do when I want to post something, I do it first in a Word document, and then check on the phrasing, and sometimes the grammatical inaccuracies or accuracies. And then that's the only time sometimes I use the Grammarly. I don't know if you're familiar with that. I always also check consult it for some language editing, because I want to project, because this is how I want to be perceived online. I have to be very careful. I have to be mindful of what I share online. Okay? So you can, and then be an advocate. Fight fake news. Fight misinformation. Fight disinformation. Okay? The proliferation of fake news already has caused a lot of trouble to so many people, to so many companies. And I think the only way by which we can fight fake news is be an advocate. Make it our advocacy to help our fellow citizens in the digital world to get the right information, to get the accurate information, the most helpful information, especially if they want to survive the digital world. Okay, so, and then I think this is my last slide. I think I'm finishing earlier, but just the same, if you have some questions, I can check on the YouTube so we can consume the next 15 or so minutes for questions and answers. So this is my last slide. For us to be a responsible and empowered digital citizen, always wear the PPE. I hope you still remember the PPE. P stands for presence, another P for protection, and another one for education. Okay, so this is what I want to share with you, and I hope I was helpful to you. So thank you very much for attending today's session. So I think our friends from CHRDF are opening the venue for question and answer.